Alright, and so just to recap real quick, we've got the leg, and we've got a step dial at 0 to 1, takes us through, 0 to 100%, takes us through one step cycle. And one step cycle is fine and dandy, but not horribly practical if you wanted to use that dial in an animation or something like that. So we're going to simplify it. We're going to do that by creating yet another dial. I'm in the controls group, so it's one less thing I'll have to change. We're going to go and create a new property, and we're going to name this, we're going to name it step FL1, and we have a hyphen there, and I'm going to name this I don't know how to pronounce it. I googled it, looked up what it meant, decided that's what I wanted. Never bothered to figure out how to pronounce it, but I do know how to spell it because I'm just copying it from further down the list. Modulo is how I've decided to pronounce it. So it's FL1 modulo. Let me see here. And we're going to set this to a pose again. I could probably just do them all at once, but I'm going to get them now. And click that, and it forces the limits off because you can't have limits on a modulo dial. Nonetheless, you do need to have limits set. So I'm going to go 0 because again I want this to follow that 0 to 1. And what modulo dial is, I'm going to change that because I don't want it to percent. Okay, create it. So here's a modulo dial. What a modulo property is, or what modulo means, I guess, is something to the effect of it misspelled step. Change that. Modulo does not mean you misspell step. What modulo means is basically it truncates off the whole number, leaving just the decimals, or it cycles between well, whatever the limits were, in this case 0 and 1, truncating off the whole number, leaving you with just the decimals. So in this case here, you can see as I go and I dial, you get 5, and then where I would have hit 1, wait, let me go slower. This time there's 5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and we just keep going, and it rolls back around, starts over 0.1, 0.2, and you do that forever, and it just keeps going. It never goes above 0.99999. So basically, it gives you a cyclic. What's the word I'm looking for? Cyclic value from a linear dial. I guess I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm going to say it that way. What I want to do here is I want to use that to control this dial here, though. I'm going to take my step, and I'm going to set it to. I'm going to set that to a value, and that value is going to be 100%. And I'm going to set that to 1, even though it's yeah, it goes all the way to 1. And now I'm going to the ERC, and the dial that does the controlling is here, so I'm going to right click on that dial there. I'm going to ERC freeze the two together, and so the modulo is going to drive the step. I'm going to hit accept, and now you can see that it follows. And if I go slow enough for it to go, you can see that I just keep going that one straight line, and the step dial loops back around and starts over where it should. It's kind of jumpy because I'm recording, but trust me, it works incredibly smoothly, and just loops right back around. So there, we've made one dial that we can just keep pushing, and that one there kind of loops around, and we'll just run in a continuous loop, so we don't have to worry about resetting or any goofy things like that. There's a couple more dials here because I'm going to have a bunch of legs, and I want to have one control for everything kind of thing. So there's a couple more dials I'm going to make here, just to save time down the road, because I know I need them, because when I thought about it, and two, I've obviously finished and know what I needed. I'm going to go ahead and create two more dials. I'm going to create a new property, and I'm going to call it drive FL1. And I'm just going to skip that for now. And I got to remember what it was. No limits. And I'm going to leave it as a real number. Alright, and what that drive dial's going to do is when I'm done, I'm going to have a handful of legs, and I'm going to parent them all to one frame, and I'll put a drive dial on that frame. When I push that drive dial, it's going to push the drive dial on all the individual legs. So I want the drive dial to actually push, I'm trying to remember, I think I want the drive dial to push the modulo dial here. So I'm going to take that to 1, and I'm going to take that to 1. And again, this is going to be the controller, so I'm going to ERC freeze, and you see it shows the modulo. It doesn't show the step because the step's driven by the modulo. It's not actually a value that's dialed independently right now. It's being driven, so it doesn't show you the driven dials, but it does show me the modulo. And I want the modulo to be controlled by the drive, which is the one I selected, so we're good. So we say, okay, now you see that drive dial does the modulo dial. Thing is, the whole one-to-one thing is getting a little redundant. I think it spins too much. It's harder to see because the recording makes it jumpy. But I want to slow it down, basically. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to show it in the property hierarchy. And I could have done this when I set it up, but I didn't. I'm going to find it. It's the drive. Drive has a subcomponent, which is things it controls. And there's the modulo thing. I'm going to change its attributes. I'm going to change its scalar from 1 to 0.1. That way it's only driving it half as fast. There he goes. Also makes it very jumpy. There it goes. Alright. Trust me, when I did this without recording it, it was much, much smoother. Alright, and there's one more dial I want to add because I had a bright idea, and I don't know how practical it really is, but I want one more dial because it occurred to me I'm going to have 2 on one side, 2 on the other side. Typically when you look at these models, walkers, designs based off this leg idea, usually you find 3 legs on the right, 3 legs on the left. It gives it stability and everything. Sometimes you find front legs and back legs. I had originally started off with 3 on the right, 3 on the left, and then a set of front and back. So I had what is that, 12 legs? Yeah. So I had 12 legs. Decided that was too many. I cut it down to 2 on each side. Still had a front and back, so there's 8 legs. But I'm going to have 8 legs. Basically 4 in the front, or 4 on the right, 4 on the left. And it occurred to me that if you wanted to steer, you'd steer kind of like a tank, where you turn one side faster than the other. So I'm going to add a dial that will allow me to do that later. I'm not sure how practical it really is because you can't actually see it the way it's all set up to work. You have to drive it in an animation because it works a lot like a steering wheel. But it's there and it's usable. Or it will be here in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new property. And this one here I'm going to call offset. Just because that seemed to be a name that made sense. Offset 1. Alright. And still a control, so I'm just going to skip that for now. And I do want to use the limits, and the offset's going to go from -1 to 1, and I don't want a percent. I did want the limit set though. There you go. Alright, and again, right now, doesn't do anything. Basically I'm going to use this dial here to control the speed at which drive I think it just rotates. Yeah, it's drive. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do it the easy way here. You can set this up using the ERC freeze. I'm going to do it this way here because it's easier for me. I'm going to go to the drive FL1 dial. I'm going to add a controller to it. I'm going to add offset FL1 as a multiplier. So basically the drive is now multiplied by whatever's there. Since there's a 0 right now, the drive is basically broke. So I'm going to set that. I'm going to come over here and do it this way. Set that. Default's going to be 1. The value's 1. The default's 1. Everything's 1. Alright, so now its default is 1. Anyway, it's always going forward full speed. On the main frame part, I'll add a steer dial, and it'll drive the offset, and it'll be able to push the offset down to -1 so that the leg can actually run backwards. So you get the legs on one side going backwards, you got the legs on the other side going forward, and it turns like a tank. It made sense when I thought it up. I'm going to go ahead and pause it here because I'm done with this. Pretend, I'm not really going to do it, but pretend while I'm gone here for a second before I start another video that I've saved this out. I'm not going to do that because I already have a copy. I don't want to have to mess with them back and forth. So pretend I've already saved this out, and I'm gonna stop this video and send it up, and then come right back, and we'll get the other legs taken care of. There we go.